Hey everyone, my name is Alex Karaman and I'm the instructor for your Gender and Women's Studies 200 Women in Western Culture class. Now, the whole point of this video, as you probably figured out from the email I sent out, is to cover a lot of the material that we would be covering in class on Thursday. Now, Thursday, January 11th is when our first meeting was supposed to be, but I had to get called out of town for a conference that I'm heading to in California. So I didn't want to lose a day of class, and I made this video so we could do most of what we do in class on Thursday, which is going to be kind of reviewing the syllabus, talking about the course structure, course content, and a lot of these important questions. So I wanted to use this video to kind of review the syllabus, which I have here, and I also have up here on the computer, and also to talk a bit about our course website and the structure of the course. So before we get started, first I figure I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a PhD student at the U of A in Gender and Women's Studies, and I'm currently in my 6th year of the program, which means I'm just about finished. The first 2 years were me doing my master's, and since then I've been doing a lot of field research in the Middle East, in Israel and in Palestine, where I'm working on my dissertation, which has to do with how the hip-hop and feminist and LGBTQ communities intersect with one another in the Middle East. And I've taught this class quite a few times. I've taught it online, I've taught it in person, and every semester I modify it a little bit to make it a bit more up to date with current events. And I really hope that you enjoy this class as much as I enjoy teaching it. I've, of course, lived in Tucson for almost 6 years now. I got 2 dogs. Their names are Millie and Whiskey, and a cat named Stella, a really great partner named Megan. And for fun, I like to garden. We have a really big vegetable garden here at home, and I really enjoy cycling as well. I also love playing basketball, so if any of you shoot hoops at all, let me know and we'll get together sometime to play a bit. So that should cover it with me in terms of a little personal introduction, and I'm sure I'll get to know all of you and you'll get to know me better over the course of the semester. But let's go ahead and get started by reviewing the syllabus. Now, you should have a copy of your syllabus open in front of you digitally. So you can find one attached to the email I sent out with the link to this video. You can also find one in the content section on our D2L website. So make sure you go ahead and pull that up on the computer. Pause this video if you need to pull it up, and then we can go ahead and get going. So I have my printed copy here, and I also have a digital copy up here on the computer that I'll be scrolling through as we go through the syllabus. So on this first page here, there's a little bit of important information at the top. Of course, we're Gender and Women's Studies 200, Women in Western Culture, and we're going to be meeting on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 o'clock to 3:15. Now, if you go down here at the top, you'll see, of course, my instructor email, which you should already have, but you always want to use that if you want to contact me. And then you'll see my office hours here. Tuesday and Thursday from 12:30 to 1:30. So I'm holding my office hours a bit before our class meets. If for any reason Tuesday and Thursday you have a class that overlaps with those office hours, let me know and we'll schedule other time to meet when we need to. Now, my office is located in room 105B of the Department of Gender and Women's Studies. Now, our department, unlike a lot of other ones, has our own little building, and we're located kind of slightly off campus. So you'll see that I wrote here 925 North Tyndall Avenue. That'll help you find us if you use Google Maps instead of using the university's map system, though if you do use the university's map system, that's perfectly okay. But we're located on Tyndall Avenue, which is just north of University Avenue, or University Street rather. We're kind of near the university, big university hotel, those new big apartment buildings like the Hub and Looney Soul. We're near the Arizona Historical Society, but look on a map to find where we are, because if you're going to come to office hours, you're going to want to know ahead of time where we're at. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the course description, which is here, and it's also on our course website. So this course will introduce students to a range of approaches to understanding the term culture, from feminist accounts of the representation of women in U.S. pop culture to scholarship on the anti-racist, countercultural practices of female hip-hop and punk musical artists. The class will draw from critical theory, prose, films, music videos, television shows, and visual art, and will require students to analyze cultural artifacts of their own choosing. This course proceeds through 4 units, each intended to build on the previous unit while pushing towards a more critical understanding of culture and its various meanings, uses, and contents. The first unit focuses on feminist critiques of mainstream U.S. Western cultures on subjects ranging from body image and eating disorders to heteronormativity and transphobia. The second unit then turns to survey modes of countercultural production and consumption as responses to these very same sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, and nationalist cultural practices. The third unit troubles the physical and theoretical borders of the concept of the West, as our course title has in it, to address how the current transnational moment promotes the globalization of Western culture with a focus on the practice of cultural imperialism. Our fourth unit then turns to explore the forms of resistance that are informed by cultural imperialism within the purview of the Global South. Now, though not listed in our syllabus, we do have kind of a fifth and final unit, a 2-week intensive where we spend a lot of time working on writing our final papers, peer editing, reviewing rough drafts, and eventually submitting the final document. Now, our course goals include engaging students in rigorous study of contemporary debates and methods of inquiry through sufficient required readings, lectures, visual texts, films, and music. A focus on creative and evaluative thinking, the promotion of independent, creative, and interactive learning, engagement with students in discussions of course topics and material, the development of critical and analytical writing skills, and the completion of a 2-week in-class writing and editing workshop. Now, the course materials, which you'll see listed next, focus on 2 main things. The first is our textbook, which is available now in the university bookstore. It's also available on Amazon and across the internet if you want to buy a used copy and save a little bit of money. But that course book is Gender Through the Prism of Difference, the 5th edition. Now, you'll kind of see here, this is the cover of the textbook that you're going to want to look to get. This is the 5th edition, and it's important to get the 5th edition as opposed to the 4th edition because there are readings in the 5th edition that don't show up that we're going to be using. Now, again, the book is in the bookstore. You can get it there now, and it's also available online if you would like to, and you want to make sure to have that book with you come Tuesday of next week for our first in-person meeting. The next thing that we have are articles and essays which are both available on D2L and which you're going to get a hard copy of in class next Tuesday. Now, those articles and essays are online in case you ever need to pull them off while you're traveling to look at them, or perhaps if you lose your printed copy and you want to make a new copy for yourself. However, the printed copy is good to have so you can take notes in the margins and also so you can bring it with you to class without having to rely on your laptop. Now, as we go back to the syllabus here, the next thing that we have is assignments and grading. And this, I know, for a lot of you is going to be the most important section. So we have a number of different things that our grade pulls from. The first is attendance and participation, and this is also your biggest grade category, worth 35% of your grade. So attendance and active participation, meaning you're answering questions, asking questions, talking with your fellow students. These are required in both Tuesday lectures and Thursday discussions. It's important that you come to class regularly and be prepared to discuss course readings and films. You should view and read carefully and think about all of the course readings before you come to class. Attendance will be recorded regularly. Since I'm not a total stiffler about the attendance, you will have an automatic 2 excused absences. So you can miss class on 2 days without worrying about giving me an excuse or anything, and those will not count against your grade. After that, you will lose points for every absence that you have that's unexcused. Now, excused absences are those due to religious holidays, documented illness, and anything pre-approved by the UA Dean of Students or one of their designees. Now, all excused absences do require documentation. However, I totally understand that there's a lot of extenuating circumstances where you might not be able to procure documentation, and you can feel free to talk to me about those to see if we can work out something so your attendance isn't harmed by it. Now, the remaining portion of your attendance and participation grade will be based on your participation in the lectures and discussions. This will require you to answer questions, engage in discussions with fellow students, ask questions, and present to the class. The next thing we have are our unit reading reflections, worth 20% of your grade, 5% for each one of the reading reflections. At the end of each unit on Thursday in class, you'll be required to turn in a reading reflection in which you integrate at least 3 sources from that unit's readings. Now, lectures and films don't count towards that minimum, but you should definitely think about including them in your reading reflections. The reflections should include your own thoughts on the material, as well as a critical analysis of what you read. The reflection should be formatted with, and these are all very important, 1-inch margins, a single-spaced heading, a double-spaced body, and they should be from 2.5 to 3 pages or more. Now, when I say a single-spaced heading, I do that because sometimes headings can take up a whole third of the page if they're double-spaced, so please keep them single-spaced to save room for your actual writing. Now, you're writing to an audience, me, that's familiar with the readings and with the lectures. So you should be avoiding summary information unless it's really important to what you're analyzing and discussing. So I don't want these to be like a book report on the readings where you just summarize each of the readings. Now, for the readings, you should be pulling from at least 1 D2L and 1 book reading. I don't want to have a reading reflection where all the readings you cite are from the book or all of them are from D2L. They should come from both sources, and that third reading that you cite can come from either one. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you get at least 1 reading and 1 D2L, or 1 book and 1 D2L reading, and then an additional third one. Now, each reading reflection is worth 5 points, and it's important that you're prepared to balance writing a reading reflection with managing your midterm or preparation for your final paper, because you'll have to be doing some of those things at the same time. Now, the next things we have are the midterm and the final. The midterm is worth 20% of your grade, and there will be more information coming about the midterm as the semester goes on and we get closer to the exam. But the midterm is structured as a take-home exam, so you take the midterm home with you, you fill out all the writing-based questions, which will be a combination of definition, short answer, and essay-based questions, and then you'll bring it back a week later and submit it. As with the reading reflections, the midterm, and the final paper, which we'll talk about next, you always want to have a hard copy that you submit in class and a digital copy that you submit to D2L. The reason is I like to give detailed kind of feedback on your hard copy as much as possible, but I also like to use D2L to check for plagiarism using the Turnitin system. Now, the last thing we have is the final paper, and that's right here in your syllabus, and that's worth 25% of your grade, and it's going to be due on the 8th of May. Now, the good thing about the final paper is we'll have a lot of time to do peer editing, to have rough drafts, to do review, to practice writing, to plan for the papers. However, you do want to be able to put in a lot of work to them, as they are a big chunk, a whole quarter of your grade. The midterm, or the final paper, is going to be about using course concepts and applying them in the readings to analyze a cultural practice of your choosing, and we're going to talk more about that after the midterm. But for right now, if you want to get kind of an idea of what the final paper will look like, if you go onto our D2L page, there is a draft of the final paper prompt already up there months ahead of time for you to review. So those are the assignments for the class. Again, with all of those written assignments, you're going to want to submit both a digital copy online and a hard copy in the class for me to put feedback on. Now, the next thing we have in the syllabus is our course policies, and I'll try and run through those pretty quickly. Now, the first thing is email and D2L. As much as possible, please use your arizona.edu account so I know that the emails I'm getting are coming from a student rather than a private email account. For all intents and purposes, I try and get back to every email within 24 hours or less. So if you email me at noon on Wednesday, you can expect to see a response by around noon on Thursday. However, I do reserve the right to have my weekends off. In other words, as it says in your syllabus, from Friday afternoon until Monday morning, I reserve the right to not be on email. If you email me Friday evening, I might not get back to you until Monday, and I reserve the right to do that. Now, realistically, I do get on email all the time, and most of the time I'm responding to emails over the weekend. But if I'm away at a conference or some work-related event, or maybe just taking a personal vacation, I do reserve the right to be away from email for those couple days. Now, the next thing is about academic honesty, and this is mostly focused on plagiarism. And plagiarism is really important to me. It's important in our field of gender and women's studies. And in case you don't know what plagiarism is, I suggest you go to the link that's here in your syllabus to read more about what constitutes plagiarism. But some of the mistakes that I see a lot, and you can ask me more questions about these as you see fit, are using more than 2 to 3 words from a source without putting them in quotation marks and citing them, quoting things without citing them, or going through and changing, a word here and there in a quote to make it sound like your words, and then putting them in the paper as your own without citing them. All of those things are things that I see a lot, and I want you all to avoid them. So if you have any questions, ask me ahead of time. Don't let it wait until you submit your first writing assignment. And please, please, please do review what's in this link in the syllabus in terms of the Code of Academic Integrity at our university. So the next thing here is grade challenges. Now, you're welcome to challenge any grade that you receive in the class for any assignment, and the way that works is this. You must start by making a request for a reevaluation with me and writing a brief statement describing why your assignment should be reassessed. Now, you can't say that a grade is unfair without providing reasoning, but you may suggest that your answers might have been misinterpreted, or perhaps that you included information that I missed. So, for example, on the midterm, you'll have an essay prompt with multiple parts. Maybe I say that you didn't answer one of the parts of the essay prompt, but you can provide me evidence that you did in fact respond to that. I'll reassess your grade. However, every time you ask for a grade reassessment, I start fresh and grade your entire assignment from the beginning. So that means if you ask me to regrade your midterm because of one particular issue, there is always the very small chance that your overall grade could go down as I review all the different parts of your midterm. In most cases, it'll stay the same or go up, but it's worth it for you to know that. Now, the next thing we have is discussion behavior. Our discussions are going to be taking place on Thursdays, with Tuesdays dedicated to lectures. So Thursdays are going to be when you really have a lot of chance to talk with me and talk with your fellow students in the class about the material for that week, the readings, and other stuff. Now, being able to have an effective discussion on some of the sensitive topics that we talk about in gender and women's studies means that you need to be able to respect others' backgrounds and political opinions. We operate in a way where we assume that no one is intending to offend us, and we try and turn uncomfortable moments into teaching moments. The goal is to understand where people are coming from and respect other people's opinions and beliefs. The goal is not to forcibly change someone's mind, but to learn as much as possible from as many different angles and perspectives. Now, when we're doing the lectures and we're covering the readings, obviously within the field of gender and women's studies, we do have certain priorities and certain goals that we want the field to accomplish. So you will see what feels like a relatively narrow set of views on particular subjects as we do our readings. This doesn't mean that you should be limited in discussions to simply agreeing with the readings. We want to be able to come up with counterpoints, differing opinions, and to be able to have these really nuanced discussions. Now, the next thing is in terms of resources. You're welcome to utilize my office hours and email for clarification on any assignments, any exams, anything that you might want to talk about, but also you're welcome to come to office hours to sit with me and talk about personal issues or things in your life, questions you might have that relate to gender and women's studies, whether that have to do with your personal life, professional life, academic life, or anything else. And I encourage you as much as possible to come and talk to me about things. I can be a good person to talk to about stuff, a good resource, a good mentor, what have you. Now, next we have accessibility and accommodations. It's the university and my goal that learning experiences be accessible as possible to all students at the university. So if you anticipate or experience physical or any academic barriers based on disability, please let me know immediately so we can discuss options. As many of you might know, you can also contact disability resources to establish any sort of reasonable accommodations you might need. And for additional information on the DRC, you can visit their website at drc.arizona.edu. If you have any accommodations that you need, please try and talk to me to meet with me by appointment or during office hours to discuss those accommodations and how my course requirements and activities may impact your ability to fully participate. So the next thing we're going to do is move into the course schedule. Now the course schedule is really long and I'm not going to go through everything in it, but I am going to cover the kind of basic format of it so you can understand what my expectations are for you during the week. Now, if you look at Unit 1 at the top here, you see every unit is bolded and underlined, and then underneath each unit there will be a certain number of weeks of material that we cover. Now, if you look at Unit 1 and then down to Week 1, January 16th we have a lecture. That's next week when I see you all in person for the first time. And that's going to be on Tuesday. All of our Tuesdays throughout the course, up until the end when we focus on writing your final papers, all of those Tuesdays are going to be focused on lecture. So we will be having small discussions on those days. I will be asking you questions, but mostly I'm going to be delivering a lecture that helps clarify key concepts and theories from our field that will help you think about the readings that you have for that week. I'll also spend a bit of the time during lectures to introduce the readings and talk about them so you can go back and review them with more kind of clarification and focus. Now, you are expected to come to class on Tuesdays having already read everything for that week, which is normally just 2 readings at most, with a couple weeks having a 3rd reading. However, we're not going to be spending too much time on Tuesday discussing the readings as a whole course. That's going to be what we're doing a lot on Thursday. So certainly, if you're not prepared by Tuesday with the readings, on Thursday you want to come with those readings in hand, with your notes, having read them, reviewed them, reread them, and prepared to have a serious discussion where we ask and answer questions about those readings. So our typical week is formatted where Tuesday is a lecture and then Thursday is a discussion. If you look at Week 1, it's actually a little bit different. On Thursday, January 18th, we're going to be watching a film called Misrepresentation. Throughout the semester, you'll see occasional films that are listed throughout the syllabus that we'll be watching on Thursdays. I think there's about 4 or 5 over the course of the semester. However, all other Thursdays are focused on class discussion. We'll be breaking into small groups, having large group discussions, everything that you can think of. Now, at the end of Unit 1 here at the bottom, you'll see in bold, reading reflection is 1 is due. That's on the last Thursday of the unit. Now, each of our 4 major units has a reading reflection due that's listed in the syllabus. Some of the other things you'll want to take note of are here right after spring break. We have our midterm, so we're going to be handing out midterms, as you can see here, during week 8 on March 13th, and then we're going to be collecting them during week 9 on March 20th. So you'll have a week to finish those midterms, and then as you scroll even farther down in the course schedule, you'll get to the end of the class where we have a few different due dates. First for telling me what your final paper topic is going to be, then for submitting a rough draft, getting your rough draft feedback, and then finally submitting the final paper draft for the class. So that is how your course schedule works. I recommend you go through the entire course schedule and go ahead and put it into your own personal calendar. That way you have all the due dates there, because you won't be seeing all the due dates on D2L. You're going to need to be relying on your syllabus as much as possible for those due dates. Now, the last thing we're going to do really quick is we're going to cover the D2L website. Now, let me zoom in a bit here. So what we have up here on D2L is our course homepage. So this is what you're likely to see when you sign into D2L. And I'm going to zoom in a bit on the computer so you can follow along with me. So here you have the main page for our D2L site. When you sign into D2L, you'll have to go to the right side to choose which course, and once you choose Gender and Women's Studies 200, this is what you should see. So first off, you're going to see the announcements on the main page. This announcement here is just about our course, about the basic description of it that you see in our syllabus. But if you come up here, you're going to see the first link here, the first tab in this blue bar that says Content. And if I click on that bar, it takes me to this table of contents for the course, which has all the material that our course is going to have in it. Now, right here you'll see at the top our syllabus, which you could have already downloaded, and also what I told you about that draft of the final paper prompt, which although it's not finalized, you can look at already. Then here we have PowerPoint lectures. That's where I'm going to be putting the lectures that we have on Tuesdays for you to be able to review them from D2L or look at them if you miss class. The next section here is lecture videos. I'm going to try and do something new this year where I actually video record me lecturing on Tuesdays in class and then put those videos up online. This way, in case you miss class on Tuesday, rather than needing to get notes from a fellow student, you can go online, watch that video along with the PowerPoint, and then you can be caught up. Going down from there, we have all the course readings, which I told you about earlier, and they will be printed out for you and handed out in class next week on Tuesday the 16th, but it's good to know that they're up here in case you need to access them while traveling or if you lose your printed copies. And then finally here we have a section with films in it. Some of these at the beginning are links to the films that we're watching in person in class, and some of the other ones are just recommended films that I might potentially offer extra credit for watching, or for you to peruse at your own pace. Now the second link up here is good for you to know about. It's the class list. And this is where you can go to access all the emails for all the students in the class. So this is all of you right here and me on that list as well. At the top you'll see a link that says email class list. And you can click that to send out an email to the entire class if you want to ask for notes, if you want to ask for help, anything that you could possibly ask for. So you can go there and it'll open up a window, I'll show you real quick, that has all of our emails listed on it, and then you can click to fill out the form and send it to everybody as you would a normal email. So that's good for communicating with your fellow students. The next thing we have here is the assignments section, and this is where you have all of your assignments for the class listed for you to go and submit your things to. So you're going to have your reading reflections on there, your midterm and your final paper there as well. And then finally we have the grades section, which you can go to look at your grades for the course in each and every one of your assignments. So that's kind of the overview, a very brief overview of what the D2L page looks like. Let me zoom out here real quick. And that covers it. Now, one kind of rejoinder I would add to this. This class is a class that deals with very sensitive, political, personal, social, economic topics. So for a lot of students, this class will be challenging, and in particular for a lot of students, this class will make you feel very, very uncomfortable. The reason is because this class looks to interrogate, criticize, and learn more about how power works in society. So if you're someone who thinks that things are pretty much okay the way they are, and you're not interested in seeing major changes in society, this class will probably present you with a lot of information that you find challenging and maybe even uncomfortable. Similarly, if you're somebody who already thinks of themselves as very socially and politically progressive and thinks they already know everything there is to know about how to be a feminist or how to be anti-racist, this class might also be challenging, because in order to really be a feminist or to really be an anti-racist, you need to always be open to learning new things, to challenging and changing the way that you think, okay? So keep in mind in this class as we progress through it, if you don't want to change the way that you think, if you don't want to think critically about interrogating your own thoughts, your own opinions, your own ideas, then this class isn't the right class for you. But if you are excited about that and you're willing to go into the class with an open mind, excited to have yourself proven wrong and to learn new things in the pursuit of justice, in the pursuit of a better world, then this is a class for you to take, and one that I think you'll find to be very, very enjoyable. So I'll leave you with that. Hopefully this online video will be preferable to a whole in-class meeting, save you a little bit of time and potentially save you a trip to campus. And if you have any sort of questions about the syllabus, about the format of the class, please email me and I'll get back to you over the course of the weekend and even touch base with you when we get to class on Tuesday. So I look forward to meeting all of you then. I bid you adieu, and I will see you on Tuesday. Take care.